Raksha Bandhan is a festival that celebrates the beautiful bond between brothers and sisters. What's better than this occasion to make special food? So here are 4 wonderful sweets you can make and feed your brothers and loved ones on the day of Rakhi. Let's get started and check out these recipes. So first we're going to roast all the nuts. To a pan, add half cup of almonds and roast them for about 5 minutes. So once you start seeing these brown spots on the almonds, add half cup of cashew nuts and roast them for another 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, add quarter cup of pistachios. Now these are unsalted pistachios. Roast the pistachios for about 3 minutes along with the almonds and cashew nuts. So once you've roasted these nuts, transfer them to a plate. To the same pan, add half cup of walnuts. Now walnuts are entirely optional. You can always add other nuts of your choice. Roast the walnuts for about 2 to 3 minutes. Once roasted, add them along with the other nuts and keep it aside. To add some sweetness to the laddus, I'm using 25 pitted dates. Remove the seeds, add them to the pan and toast them just for about 2 minutes. Remove the toasted dates and keep it aside. Once the nuts have completely cooled down, transfer all the nuts to a food processor and grind them to a nice coarse mixture. You can also use a mixer jar if you don't have a food processor. Remove the coarsely ground nuts and transfer it to a bowl. To the food processor, add the dates and grind them till they become nice and mushy. Now add the coarsely ground nuts to the food processor. Add a teaspoon of cardamom powder at this point and blend everything together till it's all well combined. The laddu mixtures come together beautifully. Now transfer the mixture to a plate. Before we start making the laddus, just apply a little ghee onto your palms. Take a little bit of the dry fruit mixture and start shaping it into nice small laddus. Make all the dry fruit laddus in this manner. You can see how delicious these laddus are and they're absolutely healthy. It's so simple and easy to make. You can store these in an airtight box and they stay fresh for up to 2 to 3 days at room temperature. And if you want to store them longer, you can keep them for up to 1 week in the refrigerator. The first step is to make the sugar syrup. For this, to the saucepan, add 1 cup of granulated sugar. Next, add 1.5 cups of water. Mix it well. Once the sugar has dissolved, let it simmer for about 5 minutes till the syrup thickens a bit. Turn off the stove at this point. Next, to make these little pedas, first we're going to add 1 teaspoon of ghee to a pan. For this recipe, I've taken half cup of semolina, that is Sooji. Roast the Sooji for about a minute or so. It needn't become brown or golden in color. As you roast the semolina, you can see how dry it becomes. I'm adding 1.5 cups of boiled and cool milk. Keeping the flame on a medium-low, mix the milk along with the Sooji. You can see how gradually the semolina gets cooked in the milk. It almost becomes a nice creamy texture. Once all the excess moisture is evaporated, you can see it becomes a nice soft mass. Turn off the stove at this point. Transfer it to a bowl. Once it cools down and comes to room temperature, add half teaspoon of cardamom powder, a pinch of baking soda. Next, add 2 tablespoons of milk powder. Mix everything well. Start kneading it while it's just a little warm. So knead it till you get a nice soft palatable dough. Shape it into a nice big ball. Take a little portion of the dough mixture, roll it between your palms. Gently flatten it so you get this beautiful peda. Follow the same method and make small pedas with the entire dough. Pour the prepared sugar syrup into a nice wide bowl. Take a kadai, pour enough oil for deep frying. Once the oil is hot enough, gently start dropping the prepared pedas. Fry them till they're a nice golden brown color. Maintain the flame on a medium and fry all the pedas in the same manner. You can see how beautiful the color is. It turns into a lovely rich golden brown color. Now you don't want to fry it for too long because it can change color very quickly if it's over fried. Wow, look at those. They look so good. The moment you remove from the hot oil, gently drop them into the sugar syrup. Make sure the pedas are completely coated with the sugar syrup. Leave the pedas in the syrup for about 5 minutes at least so that it absorbs all the sweetness. Wow, look at that Rosh Bora. It looks absolutely delicious. You can see how soft and juicy it's looking already. I'm just garnishing with some nice chopped pistachios and some saffron strands. This is a wonderful go-to dessert that can be easily made at home. You can just eat them in one bite actually. So you can see how soft and juicy they look on the inside. I'm sure you guys can't wait to try them. I'll give you a couple of links for other sweet recipes. You can check them out as well. So first we're going to make the sugar syrup. I've taken 2 cups of sugar. It's a 250 ml cup measurement. To this I'm going to add 2 cups of water. So this is the same cup I've used to measure the sugar and the water as well. So once the sugar is completely dissolved, just add a few drops of lemon juice. So what this does is, it will stop the crystallization of the sugar and the syrup, you'll have a nice smooth syrup. So boil the sugar syrup for about 10 minutes on high flame. It shouldn't be too thin or runny or too thick. You don't want to get the string consistency. So once it becomes a little thick, turn off the stove, add a few saffron strands. This will give a nice flavor to the sugar syrup. Now leave the sugar syrup aside. Once the sugar syrup is a little warm, transfer it into a bowl and keep it aside. For the Shahi Tukda, I've taken 1 loaf of brown bread. You can use a regular white bread if you want. It's your choice. So just cut off the edges, the crust, just cut it off. Take a pan. So I'm going to fry the bread pieces in ghee alone. So if you want to do a combination of ghee and oil, you can do that as well. Or if you just want to use oil, it's up to you. Adding ghee or frying the bread pieces in ghee will make the dish or the dessert all the more tasty. Once the ghee is heated up, gently drop in the bread slices. Maintain the flame on a medium. Once the bread slices have got a lovely golden brown color on both sides, remove them and keep it aside. Fry all the slices in this manner and keep them aside. Once you've fried all the bread slices, gently dip the bread slices one by one into the sugar syrup. Make sure the bread is completely coated with the sugar syrup. Leave it in there at least for just about a minute. Remove the bread slices and start arranging them in a nice wide tray or a bowl, whichever you please. So I'm going to make 2 layers. I'm just going to layer it up. So I'm just going to stack it and arrange it depending on the size of the bowl. Make sure the sugar syrup is not too cold or too hot. It should just be warm. To make the cream for the Shahi Tukda, to a pot add 1 liter of full fat milk. So once the milk has heated, just add 100 grams of KHOYA or KOA. This is unsweetened KOA. So what this does is it will make the cream nice and rich. To make the corn flour slurry, I've taken 3 tablespoons of corn flour. Add about 1/4 cup of water and just mix everything. So the corn flour is completely dissolved. Keep this aside. Once the KHOYA is completely dissolved and the milk has become nice and thick, gradually pour in the corn flour slurry and quickly give it a mix. You want to do this as quickly as possible, otherwise it can clump up or become lumpy. Once the milk has come to a nice thick and creamy consistency, turn off the stove and pour the cream immediately onto the bread slices. Make sure the bread slices are completely covered with the cream. The top of the cream can set very quickly, so once you've poured the cream onto the bread slices, try not meddling it or spreading it again using a spatula. I'm going to garnish it with a few chopped almonds, that is badam, some pistachios and some tutti frutti. So now the Shahi Tukda is done. So once it comes to room temperature, you can set it in the refrigerator for about 2 to 3 hours. Wow, you can see it's set so beautifully. Adding the final touch to the Shahi Tukda is putting a layer of the silver leaf. Now this is optional, I'm just using it to decorate it. So if you don't have it, don't worry about it. So carefully cut into the Shahi Tukda. I've taken these nice large slices. I'm just going to scoop this out of the bowl. You can see those layers of bread and the cream on top with all those garnished nuts. It's an amazing dessert, or sweet as we call it. It's a classic, so it's a must-try recipe. Serve it immediately, nice and chilled. Everybody is going to absolutely enjoy this old Delhi style Shahi Tukda. I've taken one medium-sized bottle gourd, cut off the ends, peel the skin. I've cut it into 3 parts. Now I'm just going to remove the center soft portion. So this is a nice tender bottle gourd, so make sure you remove the center portion. So I've removed the inside soft portion. You can use this to make sabjis, or you can add it in sambar or soups. Next, taste a small piece of the bottle gourd to ensure that it's not bitter, because very rarely the bottle gourd can be bitter. So once you cut it, before you make the sweet, make sure you taste it and then you grate it. I'm using the medium grater to grate the vegetable. So when you finally grated it, you can remove this portion and keep it aside. So if you can see, the vegetable has a lot of water content. So the next step is to squeeze out all the water. Transfer the grated vegetable to a sieve. Just squeeze out all the excess water. So you can see I've squeezed out all the water. So instead of the sieve, you can also use your hands to squeeze out all the water. Take a kadai, add 2 tablespoons of ghee. First, I'm going to cook the grated bottle gourd. Saute the vegetable for about 2 minutes. After sauteing the bottle gourd for about 2 minutes, add 500 ml of full fat milk. I'm going to cook the vegetable in the milk. Cook until the milk is reduced and it's nice and thick. So you can see the milk has reduced beautifully. The vegetable is also cooked. Now I'm going to add 100 grams of unsweetened KHOYA. If you don't have KHOYA, you can use milk powder. You can also do it with condensed milk. Next, add half cup of sugar. Keep stirring and mixing until the sugar and the KHOYA is completely dissolved and everything is well combined. You can see the sugar and the KHOYA is dissolved completely and the mixture is thickened beautifully. Now I'm going to start adding all the nuts. Add a few chopped almonds, some chopped cashew nuts, some pistachios chopped. I'm also adding a few raisins. Next, add half teaspoon of cardamom powder. Next, add 1/4 teaspoon of rose essence. I'm also adding a few dried rose petals. Now this is entirely optional. If you don't have the rose petals, the rose essence will do. So now mix everything together. finally, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of ghee. Mix everything together. The mixture should become nice and dry before setting it. The mixture for the Loki barfi is done. Turn off the stove, cool the mixture completely. To set the barfi mixture, I've taken a small tin. I'm going to first grease it. Take a little ghee, so brush it throughout the tin. Make sure the sides are also greased well. I'm going to line the base with the butter paper. The mixture has come to room temperature. Now I'm going to transfer the barfi mixture into the tin. Just make sure you spread it out evenly. So I'm just going to dab some ghee on top and just spread it out so you get a nice even surface. Leave it to set for about 3 to 4 hours. You can either leave it out at room temperature or set it in the refrigerator. So you can see the Loki barfi is set beautifully. So if you feel it's not set, you can leave it for another 1 hour. So now I'm going to gently release the sides from the tin. Now I'm going to remove it from the tin. Turn over the tin onto a hard surface like a board or a plate. Just tap it gently on the top to release the barfi from inside the tin. Remove the butter paper. Cut it into pieces and serve.